Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
I don't know what to tell you. I honestly have no clue what to tell you. I don't know how to describe that basketball game other than horrific. That was a trash basketball game. And normally when the Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, Eagles, if they win ugly, you go, okay, I don't care that they won ugly. At least they got the victory. The most important thing is they found a way to come out of there with 2 points, right? That's a big saying, a cliche saying in sports. I don't know, but there's something internally where even though I know that they came out victorious, I don't care, right? That was bad. That wasn't good. What did I just watch? I'm in awe. Danny Green has to come up big and save everything. He hit the whatever the hell the runner floater shot was at the end of regulation, which was desperation as hell. After you already went through a couple stretches of 0 field goals in so many damn minutes in the most important part of the basketball game, you need to rely on Danny Green to throw up a prayer, and it ends up working. Then in overtime, he's bailing everybody out because he's draining these lethal threes. And keep in mind, he was pretty much nothing offensively throughout the entirety of the game until that point. He was effective defensively. I'm talking specifically when it comes to shooting the rock. It wasn't like he was a big-time point producer until late in the game when it mattered most. Tobias Harris came up small, and then he ended up coming up big, which was definitely nice to see him bounce back. He missed the free throws. He played good defense on Julius Randle when Julius took the 3 at the end of regulation. And it hit off of the rim and ended up bouncing in. But it should have never been in that spot because Tobias should have had the free throws. Not only that, there was the miscommunication, or maybe it was just a bad play by Tobias. But when Ben Simmons is inbounding the ball to give you an opportunity to even try and win the basketball game, this is when it was tied. There was a turnover which led to a heave for the Knicks to try and win it and secure the bag, if you will, with no time left on the clock during regulation. And when I saw it go to overtime, I'm like, please no. Please do not force me to watch 5 more minutes of this crap. That was terrible. Missed free throw, sloppy play, bad offense, no execution. Good thing for Shake Milton, too. Shake Milton was a dog in this game, and he played very good against the Kings, and I question if it was because of how bad the Kings are defensively, because keep in mind, that's the worst effort on the D side of the floor I've ever seen in the history of the damn sport. But he followed it up with a good one today as he finished with 9 of 15 from the field and 21 points, and he was a dog. Now, in overtime, he missed a shot when Danny Green ended up getting a rebound, got it back to Shake Milton. That's when Tobias got fouled. Look, Tobias Harris and that foul call to even send him to the charity stripe in overtime, that's a joke. It's a bad call. It's an unfortunate call. The fact that that's what you're calling in crunch time, was there maybe a little bit of a ticky-tack? Yeah, sure, there might have been ticky-tack, but you got to keep your whistles out of your mouths when it's that close. Let the players play it out. That's my philosophy. I'm okay with fouls being called throughout, but yeah, you know what? You do call it differently at the end of the game. That pisses people off, but I'd rather allow them to play. Let the players go out there and perform and make the plays that they need to play. The Sixers got lucky as hell. Let's be realistic. If that call was made on any Sixers defender when you're talking about a handful of seconds left in a basketball game, you're vomiting out your mouth. You're in the comment section saying, Brodes, I can't fucking believe it. I can't fucking believe that they actually called that. So let's be realistic. When it happens to Tobias, we all need to acknowledge that that was a horse shit call as well, but we'll take it. It's not like I want them to give it back. Hey, you know what? We don't want this. No, you take it. And it's nice to see that the mentality of Tobias is not only did he make those free throws, but he also came up big with that corner 3 that was monstrous. So you saw really ugly moments out of Tobias, but you also saw him get redemption. Was he rewarded redemption because of luck? Yeah, possibly. But guess what? The alternative is him failing again, him missing free throws again. Ben also went to the line and went 0 for 2 in important moments. And look, Ben had 17 field goal attempts. He went 8 of 17. But getting to the free throw line 2 times is a problem. There is now this common theme with Ben as of late, and that's not getting to the charity stripe. You have to do it. Now, I do bring this up, though, because is it possible, like, if Ben Simmons goes 5, let's say he gets 12 field goal attempts. I was going to say 5 of 12, but it doesn't really matter how many he made. If he gets 12 field goal attempts, but goes to the line 5 times or 6 times, is that the same as not getting to the line as much and taking 17 field goal attempts? My answer to that is no, though, because when you get to the line, it shows the determination and the will and the power of getting downhill and doing anything possible. When you're not getting to the line, well, you're not being a force enough. You're not utilizing your body the best way that you can, and that's going downhill and forcing the other team to get into foul trouble. You have that type of power. Honestly, it's not just about what you're doing offensively, but it's also about what you're doing to the other team defensively. You're forcing them to foul. You're putting them into foul trouble. You're making Tom Thibodeau now have to make a decision on what he's going to utilize with his bench and with his rotations because you're putting them in hell. You're not doing that when you have the lack of aggressiveness. So this free throw thing is something that I need to keep my eyes on with Ben because it's not there. It needs to be there. It's a necessity to be there. You saw sloppy half-court play once again. You were, at the beginning stages of the overtime, you were relying on a 20-foot jumper from Dwight Howard. And I know that he actually made one earlier. I thought Mark Zumoff had the perfect saying about it when it comes to the analytical world. He literally had 1 foot on the line, 1 foot inside the line, and Dwight just takes a three, doesn't hesitate, and lets it fly, and he made it. But you shouldn't be relying on Dwight Howard in the early stages of overtime with the shot clock winding down. All right, what are we going to do? Yeah, let's pass it to Dwight Howard. That's how you know you have a problem. That's how you know it's a really off night. And it goes back to the other night when you were in overtime and you're rocking and rolling with Furkan Korkmaz dribbling the ball and playing a 2-man game with Dwight Howard. It can happen. Without Joel Embiid and Seth Curry, it can't happen. It won't happen when they're in there, but it can't happen without them either. You tried to run some actions for Tobias Harris and all. Honestly, I probably would have went to Shake again. I would have allowed Shake to maybe rock a little bit later on and put the ball in his hands because he had it that night. Let's be realistic. Shake had it. And it's one of those nights where his performance would support it if it failed. If Shake Milton didn't execute, I would not have sat here afterwards and destroyed Doc Rivers and his concept of, hey, let's go through Shake. Because Shake backed it up tonight. And this would have been back-to-back nights of truly balling. Nobody else really had it going on. It's not like anyone had it going on. But to be fair, let's just play devil's advocate with myself a little bit. Danny Green didn't have it going on, and they continue to thread the needle to him. But this always goes back to something that I constantly have with conversation with Danny. There's enough of a sample size in his long-ass career to support that logic. He's done it at so many different levels, with so many different teams, winning championships. He has enough pedigree where you can rely on that. Some of these other guys don't have the Danny Green pedigree and that veteran leadership that he does, where you might not be able to support it the same way that you can with Danny Green. Shake Milton, he had it tonight to back it up. But I'm saying if you're going to go to a guy that's cold or not his best night, well, he better have a pedigree of it. He better have an unbelievable career that say, hey, well, guess what? I'm banking that he becomes a version of himself that we've seen for majority of his time out there on the court. But hearing after the game and hearing what Danny Green was saying during the huddles and all and keeping everyone engaged, it's monstrous, his leadership. And I do love when Danny Green's the one that makes such a big statement because everyone thinks that he's a fraud, thinks that he needs to get out of here, thinks that he's horrendous. Nope! Once again, nope! There's going to be times where he's not on, and there's going to be times where he's missing a lot of shots, but he has the ability to do this. He does! How do you not see that? How do you just pretend that that's not reality? How do you pretend that that's not real? It's real. Danny Green matters so much to this team right now. And Doc had some interesting words even before the game about he loves this team. If Daryl Morey makes a move, fine. If Daryl Morey doesn't make a move, I love this team. And I think that's somewhat telling you the direction that they're going to go. And look, they talk. Let's not act as if Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers don't talk. Well, if we make a move, okay. If we don't, I think that's a statement of just predict small things happening. Maybe a minor buyout. You go after a buyout market guy. Buyout market guys aren't difference-making guys. They can help. They're a nice little addition, but they're not a serious acquisition that changes the future of your run to this lethal level. It could be a bonus. I actually heard Shams talk today. There was a clip running around Twitter, and he mentioned the bone bruise out of Joel Embiid. And he also mentioned J.J. Redick as a possible buyout market if he's not traded for. And the one thing to keep in mind, though, is if Brooklyn Nets are in play. Remember, he lived in Brooklyn and he would travel to Philadelphia. So it's going to be tougher if he becomes a buyout compared to trade and all. And then financial stuff comes into play, which makes it significantly different from Daryl Morey's perspective. But what I want to do here is, I think I remember exactly. I think John Clark of NBC Sports Philadelphia had it on his Twitter. So let's scroll through these Villanova stuff. Let's go through the Deshaun Jackson stuff, the JT Realmuto stuff. Okay, bang, here we go.
And Shams, with so much trade deadline talk that we'll have for today's show, where are the Sixers and Daryl Morey when it comes to potential upgrades to this roster?
I would look at Philadelphia trying to get more shooting around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. J.J. Redick, Nemanja Bjelica, those are the types of players that Philadelphia is expected to pursue. And J.J. Redick, he's a name to monitor over the next week and a half, because if he does not get traded, I would expect New Orleans to work on a buyout with him. And if that's the case, his intent is to be somewhere on the East Coast. So I would look at Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Boston as potential suitors for J.J. Redick. But that's a name that Philadelphia has definite interest in. But again, this trade market, especially for shooting, it's not as luxurious as it has been in past years.
All right, so obviously a player like J.J. Redick would be big for this team. I'm not saying it wouldn't. It would be a really nice player that you can take off your bench. And just like with Danny Green, veteran guy, been around the block. There's a reason why he has been in the playoffs for every single year of his career, except for once he got thrown into this New Orleans mess. But I think Doc is almost telling you something. Don't expect something monstrous. Don't expect something big, because Daryl Morey and himself, they speak. They communicate. He's not going to say that if there's not a chance of this actually going down. I think he's almost preparing the fan base of, hey, minor stuff. We can get help, but it might not be anything to this wild level. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I understand you can smell blood right now and you're in the mix with everybody else, so you're not in that moment very often. You're not in that, hey, I feel something in my gut that says this team can truly compete. You are limited in those chances, so with that being said, you make sure you pounce when you get that chance. But I also understand staying still, too, and building this thing as well. Like, I trust Daryl Morey, too. He's someone that I understand has been around the block and has made moves and has been aggressive, and I think I trust his feel and his pulse, how he's getting a read on things. I trust him. So if he feels, hey, maybe it's not the best time, well, I can see that. And I have someone in the front office that has been around the block and has a lot of respect in this league and is highly regarded as one of the best in the business. So I'll take his word for it. It's nice to have that type of history behind you as a human being, huh? Wow, people actually trust you, huh? There's not many people in Philadelphia that you can really get behind. It's not Howie Roseman. Ooh, I didn't need to do that, did I? No, come on. That's ridiculous. Speaking of people that piss people off, that's probably a horrendous transition. But Julius Randle was not a happy camper tonight. You could see the frustration, not only at the end with the foul calls, and then what he said specifically afterwards. He was throwing curse words out there. He's going to get fined. He's not happy. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. There was some horrendous stuff going on afterwards. And even the broadcast mentioned the fact that someone had health and safety protocol stuff going on from a referee perspective. So they were only running with a couple, so maybe that changed things. It changed the thoughts on these players late down the stretch on how it was officiated. I don't know. But I do know that he was irritated and he was getting annoyed and he was getting bothered because he wasn't able to be the MVP that the fans were cheering. How can you go MVP for Julius Randle? Is that what happens when your organization sucks for that long and you have a coach that forces your team to play hard with this gritty attitude, but they still stink? They're still a bad basketball team. They're not a great basketball team. They work hard. I'll give them credit. They're not the Knicks that we saw the last couple of years and the last stretch of winning nothing. They went through process years without actually being able to execute the process. So it's not to that level anymore. But you're going MVP on me? Seriously? Allah had a pretty good one. MVP of what? I mean, really. MVP of what? Julius Randle's a fringe all-star player who got lucky on a bounce that ended. It was a long shot. If you watch it, the shot was going long. He got super lucky. Don't tell me shooters touch. Come on now. What a joke. Matisse Thybulle had that shooter touch, though. He drilled an important three late in the game. There is something to be said about the threes as of late. It is now becoming more of a trend, and there has been enough of the threes going in where I can recognize that it's there. But earlier in his career, he did go through this where his numbers were so skewed because so early on, he was dynamite and he was electric, and then he went through this ice-cold phase of being so bad, but his numbers were, he gets in such extreme funks. That's the thing. He goes through a ride in his small career. To this point, I've recognized it in the small sample size of his career to this point, but he'll go through these stretches of amazing three-point shooting, and then he'll go through, amazing's a little strong, but good three-point shooting, and then he'll go through phases of just a mess and can't find it and bad, but he had a nice three, and he also provided great defense as well. And throughout this whole conversation of Tobias Harris and the up and down roller coaster that he went on, when Ben Simmons turned the ball over, late possession, when you really need to get yourself going, who but Tobias Harris gets back and forces the Knicks to turn the ball over underneath the basket to give the basketball back to the Sixers. And they had to go to review for it, and they reviewed it, and they overturned it and all. But the effort was there. It was such a weird up and down game for Tobias. But ultimately, even though they grinded it out and he made some plays later on, it was too sloppy for my liking out of Tobias. And I thought Doc really forced it into his hands. Hey, Toby, we're going to you. We're going to you. We're going to you. Almost to sort of make a statement like, you are our guy. You have been our closeout guy when Joel Embiid hasn't been, and when he hasn't been available, we've been giving you the rock, so we need you to facilitate, get to where you need to be, make things happen, make the play go down. Tobias, we're leaning on you. But I thought at some point he forced it to this level of, hey, maybe we should stop going to Toby. Maybe we should run a different action. Maybe we should try something else. But later on, it all ended up happening. How about Corky? Poor Corky hasn't even gotten enough love yet for that first quarter. The threes, the steals, the alley-oop pass. He went on a pretty dry spell after that, but the Furkan lovers really love that, I'm sure. Congratulations, Furkan, for that first quarter. And speaking of alley-oops, it's almost laughable to think about Dwight Howard and Ben Simmons having this little alley-oop pass, but Ben Simmons has very limited touch around the basket to the point where he tried to throw a lob and it actually went in. But here's Dwight Howard who's getting a basket interference call. You can't make this stuff up with this man. You have no clue what you're getting out of Dwight Howard. Whether it's his hard fouls, his passes, his mid-range jumpers, right inside the three-point line, the pick-and-pop game, the three-point shooting whenever he decides to do that, and these basket interference calls. He's one of a kind. He really is. Who else is one of a kind? DraftKings Sportsbook. March's biggest tournament is finally here. We do not know who will be cutting down the nets at the end, but we do know that there is no shortage of madness. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. Bet $4 on an underdog, win $256 if they win. It's that simple. Turning $4 into $256 is 64-1 odds. Every dollar you bet could turn into $64. Don't worry if college basketball isn't for you, because DraftKings Sportsbook offers great odds and promotions on golf, hockey, and so much more. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $4 into $256 if the underdog of your choosing pulls off the upset. That's code Brodes. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. What did I want to bring up here before we get to the Anytime Hotline? Oh, Tyrese Maxey. I feel like Tyrese, it's so hard to get into rhythm. You don't know what type of minutes you're going to get. It's so up and down. It's so all over the place. One night you're playing this, the next night you're not getting anything. You're a DMP one night. It's all over the map. So when you get very weird run and very awkward run, well, it's hard to get into rhythm. And I thought that Tyrese Maxey had some nice moments, but then he ended up having 2 turnovers, and Doc Rivers was very quick on the trigger. I didn't love Doc Rivers today in terms of what a coach can provide for you. I didn't think Doc had the sharpest day, but it also doesn't help when your team isn't performing. But I think he went to guys that weren't performing too much and when there were other options. Not that those options would have necessarily 100% finished it off and executed perfectly either, but I thought that there were maybe better options out there on the table, specifically Shake Milton, when he was having that type of night. And look, I've been crushing Shake Milton for his lack of efficiency, but when he gives you 9 of 15 for 21 points and he was clearly a dog, early fourth quarter, he had a monster deep 3, and then he had a beautiful from the left side of the court. He was out by the 3-point line, and he drove perfectly. He used the rim as protection, and he put up an outstanding layup off the glass. Shake Milton was definitely creating a spark for this team. And I think when someone creates a spark, you ride that. Especially someone like Doc, who, when he realizes someone has it that night, he goes to those players. When someone is feeling it and someone's hot and someone's in a groove, Doc Rivers allows that player, whether it's a role player or not, to finish out the game, to play down the stretch. That's what Doc Rivers does. So when you see that happen, it's a little weird that in a night like tonight, he doesn't push with Shake Milton as much as maybe I would have in that scenario. He did rock with Dwight because it was clear that Tony Bradley wasn't having a better Tony Bradley night, but that's what you sort of expect when you're talking about a player like Tony Bradley, right? You can't anticipate this guy just being an alpha every time he touches the floor so early into his tenure here. So with that, let's hop on in to the Anytime Hotline to get some reactions.
What the fuck was that? What did I need to rinse my eyeballs out after witnessing that horrific performance. They are bleeding. Tobias Harris with hands that of Nelson Aguilar. He couldn't do a damn thing. He almost cost the game, missing those free throws, dropping that ball in the inbound pass during regular time to win the game. What the hell was he doing? Ben Simmons turned the ball over more than Carson Wentz on a Sunday. If it wasn't for Danny Green, I don't know what we would have done. Shake Milton had a nice game too, but goddamn, how the hell did we win that game? I don't care that we won that game. That was a horrendous performance, and I don't even know what to say. Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons better, they owe Danny Green and Shake Milton something because that was awful. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was bad for sure. And it is weird because these are the days or the nights or whatever, the post-game reactions where a win is normally the message. And it is the message because without Joel, you got to stack the victories. We talked about this last game. You need to stack the wins. You're on the road, second half of a back-to-back. You got to win. I don't care how it happens, it happened. And you're in a race with the Brooklyn Nets, with the Milwaukee Bucks to stay above water here and to keep yourself alive with this first overall seed. So it is very important, and it is very valuable, and it matters. It does actually matter. It doesn't feel that way, though. There are other circumstances and there are other games that play out in an ugly way, and you take a breather afterwards and you go, all right, I don't care how ugly it was. They found it. This one doesn't feel that way, even though we can all recognize how important it is. Post-game, moments after, as I sit here, it doesn't have that vibe. Even though I fully do understand and comprehend how much it is important to stack these wins without Embiid. Every win is so important. And the fact that they have, one loss to this point since Joel Embiid has been out against the Milwaukee Bucks, that's it. That's pretty damn impressive. I don't know how they won it. I really have no clue. Tobias Harris with the Nelson Aguilar hands. What do you say? Ben Simmons turning it over like Carson Wentz. Yeah, it's seriously wild that they completed it the way that they did. Is that a product of them internally? Is that a product of the New York Knicks being a bad team and not having that much of a legitimate squad right now? Like, what is this telling us? What is this telling us? I guess you got to give them respect enough to say there's this common theme with this team. When they shouldn't, they do. When they don't have their best game, they still come out victorious. They could put away teams and easily blow them out. They're doing it in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's going to have to be grind out. Sometimes it's going to have to be putrid. But that level of half-court offense and that level of going scoreless for 3-minute, 4-minute stretches down the fourth quarter run, that's a little bit of a problem. More than a little bit of a problem. But then we always date it back to, with Joel Embiid in the lineup, you're not going to have those droughts. And when things get sloppy and maybe you can't buy a bucket, you're getting the free throw line. And once again, just like we talked about with Ben Simmons, when Joel Embiid is back and this team is going into the line and they're attacking, they're going into the paint, Joel's getting fouled or whatever happens, swinging his arms, you are now making the other team foul a lot, go to the bench, have to bring in someone else. You have to make a tough decision. Do you force someone to play with 3 fouls? Do you put him to the bench and wait for later on in the game? Like, Joel Embiid's presence changes absolutely everything. So it's reasonable to apply some things to what's going to happen with Embiid, but at the same time, just Embiid's presence and forcing teams to foul you so much changes every dynamic. And it's so simple, but Joel Embiid getting fouled 12, 13, 14 times changes the dynamic on everything. Because now there's a different defender on Danny Green, a different defender on, I'm just saying, like, let's say someone brings the help defense and fouls Joel a couple times. Now that's a wing protector, a wing defender that now has to be swapped out. And now a different player's on other guys. And the whole entire offense changes. But it is ugly as hell to watch this half-court offense and these late-minute situations. They could not execute a damn thing.
Okay. We lost this game. The record books are going to go down and say that the Sixers beat the Knicks tonight on the first day of spring in 2021. But we lost this game. That was not a foul on Tobias Harris. That kind of ticky-tack stuff should not be called. Fortunate. The refs bailed us out and pretty much handed us a victory tonight. Anyway, that's what, like 15, 16 wins against the Knicks in a row, and I'm happy about it. But yeah, we lost this game, but we got bailed out.
Just a simple, you know what? I don't even want the win. We lost it. I don't even want it. Take it away from us. I don't know if I will go to that level or go to that extreme. Ben Simmons has never lost to the New York Knicks. That's a pretty incredible stat. And it is nice to see Ben Simmons play, though, considering what we saw yesterday. He was a late scratch, and he had the soreness and all. For him to come back the next night and go out there, well, it wasn't his sharpest game, and I want him to be more aggressive, and I want him to go downhill more. I want him to get to that charity stripe more. Just knowing that the soreness and all at least allowed him to play, and he was able to go out there and run up and down the floor, that's big. Not that I thought it was anything serious, but I want him out there as much as possible. There's still so many frustrating moments with him, though. There's still so many flaws that make me cringe. And I know I'm not the only one. I've never felt this way with an athlete in this city, to the level of appreciation for so many things that he does so well at. He is so damn good in a lot of things in a basketball game. He has it in so many areas. But he's got such a huge flaw that crushes so much with this team. But a superstar in the NBA can make up for flaws. So I ponder about this all the time. Joel Embiid, his presence, will that be able to make up for Ben Simmons? Tobias Harris being the Robin, will that be able to make up for Ben Simmons? Danny Green, Seth Curry, the combination, the spacing on the floor, the three-point shooting, will that force the Sixers, or will that allow the Sixers to be able to operate smoothly with the biggest flaw of Ben Simmons? And I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. You could say yes, you could say no. Reality of the situation is we got to wait for half-court sets in fourth-quarter games in a 2-point game on the road against teams or at home against teams that have serious talent that can match up against you to the best of their ability. That's when we're going to figure this out. So we have no idea. But we do know that superstars can, because no team is not flawed. Every team is flawed. Every championship team has flaws. They're not the greatest in one area. But what ends up happening? Kawhi Leonard steps up. LeBron James steps up. Somebody steps up. There's flaws on teams 99% of the time, even when they win the championship. Superstars overcome that. So will Joel Embiid and the presence of others, will that allow you to overcome Ben Simmons' flaws?
What's going on, Brodes? Hey, we did not deserve to win that game at all, but I'll take it. There's no way that Tobias Harris got fouled. Again, I'll take it. And I sort of have a family connection to the Knicks and their new president of basketball operations. So I watch a lot of Knicks games. They're just an ugly team to watch. They play really good defense and just kind of rely on threes and stuff. So that was a brutal game to watch. Thankfully, I had Villanova on my other screen, and they blew out, I think, North Texas. But I'll take a win. We got bailed out, but not going to complain about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about it either. I guess with all the college basketball going on, too, to watch an NBA game like this, it's dreadful. Because I also had a couple TVs going. There were, I forget exactly, but Villanova was on one of them. Was it the Oregon State game? There were a couple other ones that ended pretty good, too. Wait, what's the Oral Roberts, right? With the second upset, what are they, a 13, 14, they're 15 seed, I think. And they ended up getting to the Sweet 16. So they're continuing to ride. And when you see games like that happening and you turn over and you look at the one screen and it's, really? Oh, geez, these possessions are just brutal to watch. Yeah, it's bad. The fact that this Sixers team, Korkmaz hit all the threes in the world in that first quarter, and then they didn't see another three-pointer made until finally Mike Scott drills one in the third quarter. It was so tough. This Knicks team, oh man, they are just not fun, not entertaining at all. You got Alec Burks putting up 3,000 shot attempts for his 20 points. I love that people get so fascinated. Look, there's a role for the microwave scorer off the bench, and last year we thought Alec Burks was the greatest player in the world because the roster was so flawed. You got someone that can create their own shot off the bounce, and we already, without even seeing him make one bucket, we claim that he was Jesus. We claim that he was the best basketball player in the world, and he deserved all these minutes. He deserved to start everything because he was an NBA player that could put the ball on the foot. He's your guy, and look, he has a role once again, but he's your guy who just takes 1,000 shots, and yeah, he's going to make some of them. He's just a microwave scorer, takes a bunch of shots, high-volume guy, just takes a bunch of shots. That's what he does. He scored 20 points. He was -6, and he took an obnoxious amount of field goal attempts. That's Alec Burks, but that's what we're watching out there. Him and Julius Randle trying to create some sort of offense and all, and to a degree, it made my eyes bleed, to a degree. I enjoyed the frustration part of it. I loved watching Julius Randle. I believe it was Tony Bradley who was on the court at one point. He was like on his ass, and Julius Randle went after him a bit. Like, when you start going after Tony Bradley, if it was the player that I was thinking of, I believe it was Tony Bradley. If you're getting to that point where you're getting pissed off and you're getting in Tony Bradley's face, come on, dude. Really? Yeah, that shows that you're annoyed.
What's up, Brodes? I kind of tuned in late to this game because I was watching Villanova a little bit, but I thought it was ugly, but I don't know how we escape with that win. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris have to make those free throws at the end of the game. They can't miss all 4. I mean, that game should not have gone the extra 5 minutes, but I guess credit to them for winning the game and coming out with a needed win, going into a hard stretch coming up here. And, I mean, that's all I really could say.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, bringing up the stretch and why this means so much. Because let's say they let's say they lose the first 2 on this West Coast swing and they go on the flight and all. Well, now you look back at this win against the Knicks and it has a little bit more power. Let's say you go on this road trip. It's just kind of you come out 500. Well, that makes that win against the Knicks that much more important because if you fell, well then, yeah, it's significantly worse and it puts you in a different spot. You might look back, depending on what happens in this West Coast swing, yeah, this Knicks loss could hold more value or not have as much value, depending on how it goes down. So we'll see from there. And speaking of the flight, I don't know why I just thought about this. I think Kazala mentioned it. But when Danny Green was going for a loose ball and he was diving on the ground and all that, and his shoulder went back and he was on the ground and he was holding it and grimacing it, I got a little nervous. I'm thinking, damn, Joel's out and Seth's out. Don't tell me we're going to miss time with Danny Green. And boom, what do you know? My man steps up and knocks down all these trees. I just love it because it's like Danny Green is spitting on everyone's face because there's so many irrational people out there who don't recognize what Danny Green can do. And that doesn't mean he's not going to have bad games sometimes because he is going to have bad games. That's the nature of the beast. He'll go 0 for 6, he'll go 0 for 5, but he has the ability to give you that no matter what he does. He can go 0 for 5 in one game, 0 for 6 in one game, and still give you what he gave you in that overtime period because that's what he does. That's what shooters do. That's what veteran, experienced shooters do. When Kyle Korver was in his prime and he was rock and roll, even when he was at the back half of his career, he'll go through games where it was ugly, but you give Kyle Korver a wide open 3 when he was in that back end, you're going to live and die with that because this guy has done it for so long. He can do it blindfolded. He can make $10 billion in a row. Same thing with Danny Green. I hate the disrespect towards him. And nobody, and I mean nobody, disrespects DeSimone Jewelers. I went to them for my fiance's engagement ring, and it was probably the best experience I've ever had. I went back for holidays, birthdays, Valentine's Day, you name it. They're a family-owned business with over 40 years of experience, and they moved from Jewelers Row to Haddonfield, New Jersey. They do not use sale tactics. They show you options, and they educate their customers, and they treat their customers like family. DeSimone Jewelers customizes and manufactures every ring they make from start to finish on location. And because of that, they're able to beat competitors' prices. I've sent so many family members there, and I get the same reaction. Brodes, they're unbelievable. Yeah, I know. You'll know exactly what I mean. Go in there. Tell them Brodes sent you. More information is down below. Thank you guys all so much for listening. The next time they play is when? Tuesday. We got those 10 p.m. starts. You better get your body clock going right because you're going to get those 10 p.m. starts. You're going to be staying up till middle of the night, but I'll be right there with you, and I'll be with you post-game too. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.